And now, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up. Hey theatre fans, and welcome back to my channel. So today, Saturday the 3rd of March, I am off to the Wales Millennium Centre to see the UK touring production of Sunset Boulevard. Now there's been a bit of controversy today with regards to the showing of this musical, as the past couple of days they have had to cancel it due to the adverse weather, and in particular the heavy snow that Cardiff has recently had, and not only Cardiff but the whole of the UK. But this is starting to clear. But this morning they announced on their Facebook page that the show is going ahead today, matinee and evening performance, just to the dismay of many patrons of theatre who were longing to go and see it but can't get out due to the bad snow. The controversy surrounds the fact that the Wales Millennium will not refund or exchange any of their tickets because, according to them, the show is still going ahead. Now, I'm a little bit apprehensive about driving to Cardiff in this weather, but from looking on Facebook and the weather updates and the traffic updates online, it looks like the roads are clearing up. The snow is slowly starting to melt. But that doesn't mean that there's going to be ice, especially black ice, on the road. So I'm going to take my time and hopefully I'll have an enjoyable evening. Now, I also am apprehensive about how many people are going to be there tonight, because I've seen pictures of the afternoon matinee with hardly anybody there. Even though the show is going ahead, I've never been in a situation where theatre has been barely empty. So I'll be interested to see how the show goes. I gotta say, I do feel a bit sorry for the actors having to perform to an empty house. It's not their fault that people can't get there. At the same time, it's not their fault that the Wales Millennium decided to carry on with the performance, even though there are other theatres in the vicinity who have cancelled shows tonight and have closed. So a lot of controversy. Let's see how I get on in Cardiff today. Fingers crossed I'll get there safely and I will have an enjoyable show, and I'll report back later on how it all went.
Hallways. So much to say, not just today, but always. We'll have early morning madness. We'll have magic in the making. Yes, everything's as if we never said goodbye. Yes, everything's as if we never said goodbye.
surprisingly, the roads weren't as bad as I thought. Quite clear, in fact, hardly any cars. I'm guessing a lot of people are a bit reluctant about driving. I did take my time. I thought I'll take the chance, don't really want to miss out. Yeah, no problem at all getting to Cardiff. I mean, some of the side roads in Cardiff were a little bit treacherous, but I found a parking space where I usually park, and no problem getting to the theatre at all. Now, when I got to the theatre, I was a little bit early, and when I walked in, it was quite quiet. I was thinking, are many people going to turn up? But surprisingly, by the time the orchestra struck up, the auditorium was about 95% full. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I have a slight obsession with Sunset Boulevard. It's one of my all-time favourite musicals. It's up there, probably my top 3, along with Little Shop and Miss Saigon. And it was the first musical that I saw in London back in 1993, starring Elaine Page. And it actually genuinely, it blew me away. And since then, I had to do all my research on it, and I ended up buying the DVD, which I think is a great film. That's really good. Obviously, I bought the CDs. I've also downloaded a lot of other cast recordings as well of it. I haven't actually physically got hard copies of it, but there are a couple of them I've got. I've seen amateur productions of it. I saw Glenn Close in the Coliseum in London and the revival a couple of years ago, which also starred Rhea Jones, who is currently Norma Desmond. I saw it in the Swansea Grand Theatre, and obviously I saw it in Cardiff, Wales Millennium. But also I've bought books, I've got merchandise, including the t-shirt. So yeah, I have a little bit of an obsession by this show. Now I will say straight away, and this is no disrespect to any other productions, but the West End is far superior than any other production that I have seen. Even though I haven't seen many, I've seen a couple of amateur productions, and I've seen this UK tour twice. None of them are a patch on the West End, and the reason being was I was literally blown away by it, was the fact that the house actually flew down from the fly tower. Was just incredible, was not expecting it, and I think that is what got me into musical theatre, and a taste for it was the wow factor of how amazing and brilliant a big production like this could be, and maybe want to see more shows after that. Now, like I said, this house literally came down from the fly tower, and it's hard to imagine that a house so grand and so big could in fact actually fly down. Now, an interesting fact was they had a lot of problems with the set coming up and down because it all radio controlled, and at the time it was interfering with the taxis driving past on the Strand. The set would actually move by itself on the radio controls of the other taxis as well. So yes, even though no other production will be able to reenact what I saw in London, I'm always intrigued as to see how other companies do this show, especially with the house being the way that it is, because the grand staircase plays a major role in this show. So, saying that, I went to see the current UK tour production of Sunset Boulevard in the Wales Millennium Centre. Now, like I said, I previously saw it in Swansea Grand when it came last year, and exact same production, nothing changed whatsoever, and as much as I've seen it a few times now, I still love it. I am a fan of Andrew Lloyd Webber, I will be honest. I know a lot of people aren't, but I think Sunset is definitely one of his best shows. Okay, so before I carry on talking about the show and my thoughts about it, I better give out a spoiler alert that some of the things I will be covering do spoil a little bit of the storyline if you have not seen the show before. Okay, so the story of Sunset Boulevard is a flashback to the character Joe Gillis, who is a scriptwriter down on his luck working for Paramount Pictures, and it starts off with his death. and we see him floating in a swimming pool, and he tells the story of how he actually ended up in the swimming pool. So straight away at the start, there is no spoiler or a twist, but you don't actually know why he's in the swimming pool or why he's actually dead. So the story goes back 6 months prior to that, where he's down his luck working for Paramount. He owes a lot of people money, and he has there are some people after him who are trying to get money from him, but they end up trying to get his car, and he escapes. So he ends up hiding in a mansion on Sunset Boulevard, which belongs to Norma Desmond, a silent movie star of yesteryear who is planning on a comeback. So as the story progresses, Norma Desmond gets attached to Joe Gillis and tries her best to win him over. But Joe Gillis is actually interested in another scriptwriter over at Paramount who's engaged to his best friend, so there's a bit of a love triangle going on. And as time goes on, Norma Desmond gets very jealous, and subsequently at the end actually is the one who kills him. And Norma Desmond also lives with a butler who we find out not only writes the fan mail to her, but he is like a protector guardian of her, as he was her original director of her early movies. And then a little twist towards the end, turns out to be her first husband. And his mission and job, because he knows how naive and innocent and wants to protect her, that his job is to look after her and shield her from the outside world, because the world has changed and she's stuck in this little bubble from years ago, and will do anything he can to protect her, which is quite sweet. And that's why you sort of do feel sorry for her towards the end of the second act. Now, Norma Desmond was played by a Welsh actress called Rhea Jones, and Rhea Jones actually originated the role of Norma Desmond all those years ago when it was in workshop. She came back to the role many years later when Sunset came to the Coliseum in London for a short run with Glenn Close as an understudy to Glenn. And actually during the 6-week run, Glenn Close was taken off sick, and Rhea took over with much rave reviews from the press and audience alike. Now, Rhea Jones I thought was fantastic. Reminded me very much of Elaine Page looks-wise, voice slightly different. She held her own for someone that many people don't know. I thought she did a phenomenal job of the character. She portrayed her very well, with a little bit of naivety, with a bit of psychoticness, and I just thought, I think the whole audience and the auditorium were enthralled by her, and rightly deserved the standing ovation by the end of the whole performance. Joe Gillis was played by Danny Mac of Strictly Ballroom fame. I know he's been on many other shows over the years, and I've got to say I thought he did a fantastic job. His singing was great, his acting was great, and you really warmed to him, and she believed his character completely. I gotta say, the standout performance for me has got to go to the butler, Max von Merling, played by Adam Pearce, who was just wow. His portrayal of the butler, ex-husband, guardian, if you want to say that, was just brilliant. Even though he's not in it as much, he has got some great numbers, with a very powerful deep voice. And every production I've seen of Sunset, this character always sticks in my mind, and I'm just blown away by it. And he also had a standing ovation. He rightly deserved it as well, because he was incredible. Okay, so Betty Schaefer was played by Molly Lynch. Don't know Molly Lynch, I'll be honest with you. She's been on a few things over the years, not seen her anything else, but she was very good. She was very convincing as the love interest, or the other love interest, to Joe Gillis. Played naivety as well, just right. and you sort of felt sorry for her by the end, because she doesn't have a happy ending, except maybe she does go marry her fiance, but she doesn't get together with Joe Gillis, even though you want them to too. But I was pleased with her performance. I thought she had a great singing voice, acting was brilliant. Overall, the 4 leads I thought were top notch, well cast, and thoroughly enjoyed the performance, very believable as well. Putting on a big show like this is very difficult when you're on a tour, as you're very limited as to what you can do. And as I've mentioned earlier, the house is a big set that is part of the story, in fact. And I thought they executed it quite effectively in the staging. The staircase itself is actually cut into 3 parts and is used as different pieces of set throughout the whole of the show. Being like in the back lots of Paramount, or used as the part of the swimming pool of the house. The set itself was quite minimalistic, but do you know what I really thought was very clever about the whole set, and it's very subtle, is that the whole of the set itself is in a padded cell. If you actually look closely at the backdrop and the sides, it is, I consider to be a padded cell, because Norma Desmond is such a complex character. She is, if you're being honest, she is quite insane. She has gone crazy after all her fans have deserted her over the years, even though she thinks that they are still out there in the dark, as she calls it. And as time goes on, she's getting crazier and crazier. And like I say, because she's so crazy, the notion of the stage itself, the set itself in a padded cell, I thought was very clever. And also because she still thinks she's living a movie lifestyle, you'll see throughout the whole of the production people with cameras and lights just on her as she's walking around the stage, stairs and stage, and she's also looking at it, not realising the camera's there, but as if she was back on the stage. And it's very subtle, very clever, and I quite liked those little touches as well. There were a couple of things I wasn't happy with this production, and that's namely the casting of 2 young men in their respective roles of Hog-Eye and Jonesy. Now, Jonesy is a guard at the Paramount gates, and when they turn up in their car to the Paramount Studios, she shouts out to him, and he recognises her straight away. Now, if he's a young lad, surely if she hasn't filmed in 20 years in the studios, then how would he have recognised her? So to me, the character of Jonesy should be an older character that obviously would have remembered her from all those years ago as a movie film star. Similarly, Hog-Eye, who is the Fly Tower man who, prior to the song As If We Never Said Goodbye, shouts, "Let's take a look at you," as he puts the light beam onto her. He also recognises her, but also was played by a young character. So if Hog-Eye knew Norma Desmond 20 odd years ago, then obviously he would have been a lot older, and this young cast member sadly didn't fit the role. Not to say that they weren't good, they were. All the cast members were excellent, just unfortunately to me just wasn't believable, seeing as the story does say that she hasn't filmed in a very long time, and these young lads would never have seen her or been there when she was around. So the rest of the cast, quite a large cast, did a fantastic job playing all their different respective roles to push the story forward. I must say the music is incredible in this show. There are many well-known songs, memorable songs throughout the show, with the majority of the known ones in Act 1. The 17-piece orchestra was just wow. I've got to say, it just washed over you, filled the auditorium completely. As I've mentioned before, I regularly visit the Wales Millennium Centre, and I do generally sit in the lower stalls, as I do like to be close to the stage. Not too close, but close enough. So I generally like to sit in rows A or AA or BB. Because they have a lot more leg room, but also they are close enough and far away enough to enjoy seen everything that is going on the stage. Any closer and it gets a bit too much in your face. Now, when I booked my ticket last year, as I thought it would, it sold out quite quickly, and I managed to get a seat in row CC, which was 3 rows from the front. And I gotta be honest, it was a little bit too close. Also, the 3 rows didn't rake either, so anybody sitting in front would have a job of looking around and over the person in front. Now, the rake starts from BB upwards, hence why I like to sit further back, because you always get a better view. Luckily, if you want to say luckily, there were 2 empty seats in front of mine, due to obviously getting to the bad weather that people couldn't arrive, and so I had a very, very clear view of the whole set and stage and the actors. Similarly, I also had 4 seats to the left of me, which were also clear, so which gave great views for the people in the row behind me as well, which is a bit of a shame, as I'd love to have everybody to see the show. But if I'm being honest, seeing as there was no rake in front of me, I am glad that the 2 seats in front of me were free, and I had a great view of the show. Otherwise, I probably would have had to sort of lean around and look at the stage. So my advice is, if you are booking tickets, CC, DD, anything forward than that is probably a bit too close. So I would book further back, definitely row A, AA, and row B. Obviously centre, as best as you can as well. So I didn't get a chance to film the merchandise, as the little kiosk, or stand rather, was quite busy, and all the merchandise was behind the young fella that was standing behind the counter. But what they had on offer was obviously the t-shirts. There was 2 t-shirts, both black and both unisex. One had, which is Sunset Boulevard, and the other one I think said something like "Let's have lunch." Unfortunately, I can't remember off the top of my head what it said, but it had a phrase from the show. I don't think it was "I'm ready for my close-up," otherwise I would have bought that. 2 programs, obviously one for the theatre itself, and then the other, which is the souvenir brochure. And I've got to say, I'm loving this brochure. I think it's great. Very Art Deco. I love the emboss on it. It's just beautiful. Here we've got Rhea Jones playing Norma Desmond, singing "With One Look." It has got cast as well in it. Here we've got outside Paramount Studios. Within the Paramount Studios, Norma Desmond and Joe Gillis and Max watching one of her old movies. What I liked as well was that on the back where the padded cell was, the back of the set, they would have projections of Norma Desmond's character as a young girl, so you could actually see what she was like in the silent eras. Now, Norma Desmond isn't a real character; she is actually fictional. So how they must have used some stock footage to portray her on the backdrops, but it was very, very clever how they did that as well. One of my favourite songs, one of my scenes, The Lady's Payin', where he changes from his scruffs into a rather dapper, dashing top hat and tails. Very funny moment. I don't know if you can see there are the tiles for the padded cell at the back there. I keep saying that a lot, don't I? But the movie song, the Happy New Year, before she slits her wrist because she can't cope without him, and that's her way of actually getting him back at the end of Act 1. And you can see as the music and the curtain comes down, you can see the claw coming round the back as if to say, "Yes, I've got you." Very cleverly done. Very impressed. The New Year Party. Act 2 then, Sunset Boulevard, the song itself, with imac coming out of the water, which was cleverly done as well. This is her back at Paramount Studios before she sings As If We Never Said Goodbye, which obviously brought the house down. It's a classic song, and here's the hog-eye character that I was on about. As you can see, if you can't see there, he's quite a young character, but if you was to recognise that, I'd say he would be a bit older than Norma Desmond. I gotta say, I love the costumes in this show. The costumes were just brilliant and of the time as well. Very clever, very detailed as well. This is Norma Desmond thinking she's having a comeback, and so she decides to give herself a makeover, trying to make herself look youthful. And obviously, as Joe says, there's nothing wrong with being 50 unless you're acting 20, which she is trying to do. The love triangle, Betty Schaefer and Joe Gillis. So the final showdown where Norma Desmond rings Betty Schaefer, inviting her over to the house to actually reveal that Joe Gillis has been lying to her, that they are an item, and she came over to confront him. He decides to break her heart because he knows he can't be with her either. So she runs off, obviously in despair. He decides he can't be with her or with Norma Desmond, so he decides to leave, and Norma Desmond shoots him because she can't live without him. And this is the big famous ending with the "I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille," where she is so deluded now that she believes her house and the staircase is the palace of the script that she has written, and that Max, her butler, is in fact Mr. DeMille, the famous film director. And so in her last moments, she is acting to the police officers who she feels are the film crew before her big finish with the ending of One Look, and then the curtain comes down. So I liked that brochure. There were magnets obviously there. There were the score. You could actually buy the score of the music was there, as was the CD. Now, I didn't buy this, I've had this for many years in fact actually, but that was there. It's a shame I didn't actually get a chance to video that, but if you actually have a look online on the website, you will actually see all the available merchandise. But I had to get a t-shirt because I am a big fan. Usually I do get a programme, not often do I get a t-shirt, but for this I just had to. So my overall thoughts on the show was an incredible performance, well worth going to see if you get the chance on the rest of the tour. You won't be disappointed. The score, the music is just phenomenal, the casting is great, the storyline is great, and it's a nice tragic story that will linger and remain with you for a long time after you see it. So yeah, so that's my thoughts on the musical Sunset Boulevard. Let me know down below in the comments what you thought yourself, if you've seen it, or if you are looking forward to seeing it, let me know. Tell me how you're feeling about that, or what you're looking forward to seeing. Have you seen the show already? Do you know bits about it? Also, if you like my videos, please hit the subscribe button. I try to post regularly as I can after I've seen the show. I've got quite a few shows coming up this year, so there will be a few more videos coming very, very soon. Okay, so thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video. Until next time, happy theatre!